first started the frame rail, I was real hesitant because I knew how difficult and time-consuming the process usually is.
Aaron Kaufman spent 14 years making Gas Monkey Garage look competent, walked away to finally be the star of his own show, and watched Discovery quietly let that show die not once but twice, without so much as a press release explaining why. Everyone watching assumed Kaufman would be the one fan favorite who actually pulled it off. Too skilled and too likable to end up a footnote. The same thing everyone assumed about Uncle Si.
Have as much experience with beating up old rotten junk as I do, and I think they're having a hard time seeing it, but they'll come around.
Before millions of Duck Dynasty fans got exactly one season of Going Sorrel and a finale nobody bothered to write down. Corey Harrison thought so too, traded the pawn counter for a new life in Tulum and a podcast most casual fans have never even heard of. And Kaufman got 2 full solo shows on the very network that made him famous, 2 seasons of one and a single quiet season of the other.
1 is the way that it makes power, and 2 is the extreme amount of weight associated with it.
Both ending so softly that YouTube is still making the real reason he left videos in 2026 about a departure he explained in full a decade ago. Except he never vanished. He's still building trucks in North Texas, doing just fine financially by any account that's actually been published. Discovery just stopped renewing him twice and never told anyone why. And this is the story of a man who somehow won at everything except the one job that made him famous. Here's the formula, and once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Reverse nutser.
A reverse nutser? What?
Nutser.
Oh, okay.
Nutser.
A reality show works because of a dynamic, not because of a person. Fast and Loud wasn't popular because Aaron Kaufman was popular. It was popular because Aaron Kaufman built cars while Richard Rawlings sold them. And that friction between the guy doing the work and the guy taking the credit is what kept the show on the air for the better part of a decade. Take away one half of that equation and put the other half alone in front of a camera, and you don't get a star. You get a very talented man standing by himself in a garage waiting for a conflict that isn't coming anymore. That's the whole problem.
I don't think anyone in the shop has any big truck experience. Turn wrenches on them? No.
Networks know this. They know it so well. They've built an entire pipeline around it because a proven fan favorite with a built-in audience is a cheaper bet than developing someone from scratch, even when that bet fails almost every single time.
I got that open fuel line, there may be a wonderful fire.
Discovery didn't just greenlight shifting gears. They let Pilgrim Media Group build an entire second show around Kaufman less than a year after the first one quietly lost steam. Because the math of he already has fans is easier to pitch in a boardroom than the math of the format he was famous for required somebody to argue with.
How many hours I have into making a frame like this?
Seriously, it blows my mind that we can actually stretch steel like that here in the shop.
And the audience falls for it every time too. Not because they're gullible, but because loyalty to a person feels more honest than loyalty to a format, right up until the ratings prove which one they were actually watching. Duck Dynasty pulled in millions of viewers a week at its peak, and every one of those fans followed Cy Robertson's name straight into Going Sorrel. A single season later, most of them had already followed it right back out again.
A little higher. It's just what it is, because I'm really happy with the appearance on it. Me too. So let's keep on muscling.
Pawn Stars fans will probably do the same thing to Corey Harrison's podcast if they haven't already. This isn't bad luck happening to good people. It's a business model with a decade-long track record, and Aaron Kaufman is about to become its most polite, most talented, most thoroughly ignored case study. March 2018, Aaron Kaufman launches Shifting Gears on Discovery, the same network that made him famous, promising the one thing Fast and Loud never gave him.
Oh yeah.
Let's get wild. You want to get wild?
Do it. Make that sucker turn.
Room to build on his own terms without a deadline breathing down his neck. Season 1 ships 12 episodes and enough goodwill that Discovery orders a second season for September, the exact built-in audience bet from Chapter 2 playing out in real time. Season 2 premieres, Kaufman and his crew scramble to get a Subaru Impreza rally ready in time for the Olympus rally. And somewhere between that deadline and the credits rolling on the finale, the show simply stops existing. No announcement, no farewell special, just Rotten Tomatoes logging 0 critic reviews for the entire season.
That'd be the deal right there.
Yeah, that's not bad.
All right, let's go cut the red one in half.
The television equivalent of a restaurant nobody bothered to leave a bad Yelp review for because nobody remembered eating there. July 2019. Discovery tries the same bet again, and this time the premise practically writes its own punchline. The show is called Aaron Needs a Job, and the joke is supposed to be that a master fabricator is stepping outside his comfort zone to try tugboat crews and NASA workshops and crop dusting.
With Aaron, you know, nothing's gonna go untouched or unnoticed.
Right neighborhood.
There's just too many pieces.
Too many cuts. Okay.
7 episodes air. One viewer summed it up better than any critic could, describing a show that opens with real enthusiasm and settles fast into a predictable groove, which means even the people watching notice the formula wearing thin before Discovery did. No season 2 gets announced, no season 2 gets denied. The show just goes dark, and the built-in audience Discovery bet on twice in a row turns out to be smaller than the built-in assumption that it ever existed at all.
3, 2, 1.
Here's the part that should have been a warning sign back in 2018. A groundhog at least commits to a prediction. Aaron Kaufman's Route 66 project has been reportedly in the works since 2023, which means it has now officially outlasted both of his television shows combined, without ever airing a single episode. Even his own business address can't agree with itself. Dallas in some articles, Grand Prairie in the newer ones, as if Arclight Fabrication couldn't decide whether it wanted to be found.
Take that projectile, set it inside the breech.
None of that has slowed the shop down for a second. It keeps building Ford F-100 Restomods, keeps a loyal customer base, and has steadily become one of the more respected boutique builders in the Ford truck scene, the kind of reputation that never needed a Nielsen rating to survive.
Here's your round for today, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Don't drop it. That's a live round.
That's a lot of responsibility for me.
By most estimates, it's also left Kaufman sitting on a net worth somewhere in the $6 to $8 million range. A strange kind of math for a man whose last 2 television credits couldn't survive a single renewal meeting. And the internet cannot leave a quiet exit alone, which is where this gets genuinely funny. A decade after Kaufman explained in full on the record why he left Gas Monkey Garage, YouTube channels are still cranking out new videos promising to reveal the real reason, as if the old real reason expired like a coupon. One video from October of 2025 claims to expose some kind of hidden legal drama that shows up nowhere else, in no court filing, in no follow-up reporting, in nothing except that one video's own description box. Another one drops in August of 2026, promising Kaufman is finally telling the truth this time, about a departure he's been telling the truth about for nearly a decade.
Now that the engine is started and up to speed, I'm headed up to the control room to get some hands-on experience.
Call it a small, steady content mill that runs entirely on reheating a 9-year-old goodbye, one thumbnail at a time, somehow more consistent than Discovery's own release schedule ever was. And through all of it, the one part of his post-Gas Monkey career that actually delivers what it promises has nothing to do with television at all. Every year or two, Kaufman hauls his self-built 1963 Ford Falcon up Pikes Peak, 12.5 miles, 156 turns, no writer's room, no network notes, no second season to worry about. His best finish back in 2014 put him second in the Challenge Exhibition class at just under 13 minutes flat. He was still entering the thing in 2022 on the 100th running of the race, posting a slower time but showing up anyway. Because a mountain doesn't care about your Nielsen numbers and doesn't need a press release to explain why it's still there next year. So here's where the case file lands. 2 solo shows built on the same bet Discovery already knew paid off with Fast and Loud, both of them folding without a single official cancellation. One business address that can't decide where it lives. One road trip that's been coming soon for 3 years and counting. And a steady stream of new videos still trying to solve a mystery that was never actually a mystery. Meanwhile, the actual man is up a mountain in a car he built with his own hands, racing nobody but the clock, worth more on paper than his last 2 TV credits would suggest. If that's what falling off looks like, half of Hollywood should be so lucky, and somebody at Discovery really should have told him that going in. Nobody warned Aaron Kaufman because the entire television industry runs on nobody warning anybody.
And it has one of the best maneuverability and combat ranges of any fighter jet on Earth.
And saying the pattern out loud would mean admitting the business model fails more often than it gets pitched. Every executive who greenlit Shifting Gears knew fan favorite spinoffs flop more often than they land. They greenlit it anyway, because the alternative, developing an unproven cast from scratch, is a much harder sell in a pitch meeting than the guy from the show you already love, now with his own show. That pitch works just often enough to keep getting funded and fails just as often to matter. The deeper problem is that Kaufman was never actually selling himself. He was selling the version of himself that existed inside a specific friction. The quiet craftsman working against Richard Rawlings' constant hustle. And friction doesn't travel well once you remove one half of it. Put him alone in a garage with no one to argue with about deadlines or paint jobs or profit margins, and you don't get drama. You get a genuinely skilled man calmly finishing a truck on schedule, which is wonderful for the truck and dead weight for a rating share. Discovery didn't misjudge Kaufman's talent. They misjudged what people were actually tuning in for. And by the time 7 low-key episodes of Aaron Needs a Job answered that question, the show was already over.
You don't just jump in the back of an F-16. First, they fit you with a flight suit.
There's a colder mechanism underneath all of it too. A flagship show gets years to find its footing. A spin-off gets 1 season, maybe 2, before someone runs the numbers and pulls the plug without a press release, because announcing a cancellation costs a network more embarrassment than letting a show quietly fade off the schedule. Silence is a line item now, and Aaron Kaufman got billed for it twice, close enough together to stop looking like bad luck. In an industry where producers and networks generally get paid whether or not a second season ever materializes, the real risk sits almost entirely on the audience's attention span and the name on the marquee. That's the same built-in audience bet finally cashing out. It was never a bet on Kaufman succeeding, just a bet that his face was cheap enough to package twice, because the downside for everyone but Kaufman was close to zero, which is maybe the most satisfying part of this whole story. The system that was never actually built to protect him also never managed to hurt him, because he'd already built something outside of it. Arclight didn't need a season 2. Pikes Peak doesn't run on Nielsen ratings. The one part of Kaufman's life that Discovery couldn't cancel is the one part Discovery was never involved in to begin with. So here's where Aaron Kaufman's story actually ends, and it isn't the ending anyone expected when he walked out of Gas Monkey Garage in 2016. There was a real moment of promise there, briefly, when Discovery handed him his own show and let him build whatever he wanted without a network clock running. For about 12 episodes, it looked like the guy who did the actual work might finally get to be the guy people watched. Then the format quietly buried that promise. Twice. The same way it buries almost everyone who mistakes being liked for being bankable on their own. But burying his television career turned out to be the least effective way anyone has ever tried to end Aaron Kaufman. Most reality stars who lose their platform lose everything that came with it. The income, the relevance, sometimes the will to keep showing up. Kaufman just kept building trucks, kept driving a mountain in June that doesn't care what his Q ratings look like, and as recently as this year was still sitting down for podcasts and shop tours, not because a network booked him, but because people are still curious enough to come find him themselves. So which is it then?
Bring one back to life, and then on top of it all off, take a ride in the big girl here.
Is Aaron Kaufman the guy who fell off 2 shows the network let die in silence and a road trip that's been coming soon for 3 years and counting, or is he the one guy in this entire genre who quietly won by refusing to need the thing that was supposed to make him a star? Maybe the honest answer is both, and maybe that's the whole point. Discovery keeps trying to write him an ending. Aaron Kaufman just keeps building the next truck. Like, subscribe and tell us which reality spinoff got buried without a funeral so we can dig it back up.